since she's an Omnic, it means she's not racist towards humans, and since she's an Omnic, I'd like to think she's not racist towards herself. And on top of that, she is learning just like Echo is, and therefore she is not racist. Next up is who I actually think would be near the middle of the pack, and that's Kiriko. Kiriko has such little lore that it shows no racism. The only person she is against is the Hashimoto, and they're not Omnics, they're not humans, or they're not specifically either of those. Obviously, there's humans and all that, but the point is that she's fighting them because they kind of are screwing Kanazaka over, and not because they're Omnics or not because they're humans. And so there's literally nothing to really go off if she's just not racist, or at least that's what she'd want us to think. Next up, surprisingly, is Hanzo. Hanzo has very little lore from what I can tell. Pretty much he just beats up his brother and moves on. Obviously his lore is deeper than that. People get mad at me when I simplify lore, which, I mean, fair. But Hanzo, just like Kiriko, doesn't really have that much lore to go off of, and he's just not racist. And time for one of the biggest shockers. It's actually Widowmaker. Widowmaker has basically nothing to do with Omnics in her lore. I actually think Widow has this like potential to be very racist towards Omnics. You would actually think she would be. However, since Widowmaker was brainwashed by Talon, she actually doesn't have much personality, and she just kind of kills whoever. It doesn't matter if they're human, Omnic, gorilla, and so Widow just kind of is there. It's just not racist, just like the rest of them. And someone who is in the exact same boat as Widowmaker is actually Sigma. When Sigma's black hole experiment goes wrong, he kind of becomes mentally deranged or something along that line, but he's not racist towards Omnics or anything. He just kind of listens to Talon, and that's about it. And now for one that is kind of subjective, we don't really know. It's Hammond. And two people told me this guy was the #1 most racist Overwatch character, and here is why. They basically said since he has a profanity filter, he's very racist. And obviously that is not very good evidence. Hammond's just kind of the middle of the pack. Again, doesn't show any racist tendencies, except he was a part of Junkertown, which Junkertown is historically racist against Omnics. The thing is that he's hidden inside of a mech, which is an AI, which is kind of an Omnic. He just probably wouldn't be racist if he's using an AI Omnic. Either way, it's not a big deal. I don't think he's racist. The hamster's not racist, trust me. He also lives among humans. He's not anti-racist, but he's a freaking gerbil. What do you guys want? Next up is Sojourn. Sojourn is actually kind of part Omnic. She has a bunch of robotics, but she does that because that's what she has to do to get things done. Sojourn pretty obviously is fighting with Overwatch against the Omnics because she's trying to protect the world, and not because she is racist against Omnics, and therefore she's just the middle of the pack, not racist. Next up is the Lucio. Now you would think that Lucio would actually be higher on the list because his city, I think it was Rio de Janeiro, I might correct myself on screen, and it was pretty hurt from the Omnic crisis, so you would think that he wouldn't like Omnics. However, he has no prejudice towards them, and on top of that, he has a song that's like We Move Together or something like that, and that song doesn't specifically mention Omnics and humans coming together, but I feel like since it's a song that's going out there and it's saying we move together, I would like to think that he's talking about everyone. That doesn't mean he's necessarily anti-racist yet, and on top of that, he could have racist tendencies due to the fact that Omnics destroyed his home, so we're just gonna leave him in the middle and not assume anything about him. Next up is D.Va. D.Va, kind of like everyone else, is just kind of fighting Omnics because they're attacking her home. She may have racism towards them just because they're always attacking her, but there's nothing that can say that she is racist, so she's just there. She also has a mech, which isn't an Omnic, isn't an AI, but she's named it, she likes it, so I'm sure if a friendly robot came up to her, she'd be okay, and she would like that robot. On to our second to last not racist, we are going to talk about Soldier 76. Soldier was also a part of Overwatch, who, you know, fought against Omnics. However, Soldier surprisingly doesn't have any prejudice towards Omnics from what I can see. I actually expected him to start like hating on Omnics, but he really didn't. I was actually a little surprised to see that he had no prejudice. And on top of that, during the Dorado cinematic, I can't remember what it is, Hero, that's what it was, he actually beats up the gang that beat up the Omnic in the street, so you would actually think that he's anti-racist off of that. But the reason that he beat up that gang was because they were robbing a bank and not because they beat up an Omnic. And so he's just plain not racist. And our final not racist is actually Ana, which is a little surprising why she's this high up. And there is literally one reason why she is this high, And that is because in like one of the comics or something like that, I can't remember, I was reading the Soldier Wiki, and it said something along the line of, from Ana, quote, "You are more of a war hero than Reaper." That's obviously, I didn't quote that. I just am remembering from the top of my head. But I don't know. I obviously know why it's there. It's not racist. But this is like that one moment where I was like, wait a second. Did she say that Soldier, a white person, looks more of a war hero than the Hispanic Reaper? Which I obviously know she's not being racist. I know she's not. I just found it really funny at first, and so I put her at the top of not racist. Realistically, she's probably like by Sojourn. I found it really funny how she just randomly said that though. Again, don't take this video too seriously. But other than that, really, she's not racist. But with that, we're gonna move on to the potential racist, which a lot of you may be surprised that I didn't put some of the characters in not racist, but you'll see why I have the potential category in a second. So first up in the potentially racist category is Mora. There is one reason why Mora is in the potential racism category, and that's because she is focused on human evolution, which doesn't necessarily mean she's against Omnics, but she really only cares about humans and their evolution, and therefore I put her in potentially racist. She's also a part of Talon and is willingly there. Now, Talon, she doesn't necessarily agree with Talon, she's more with them because she wants to do her experiments, but it's just, I feel like she's gonna be potentially racist against Omnics. I don't think she is completely, which is why she's at the very bottom of potential, but obviously this video would be boring if everyone was not racist, so she's in potentially racist. Next up, it may shock you, and that is Baptiste. Baptiste himself has not done anything, you know, racist towards Omnics, but Omnics literally destroyed his home, his family. He was orphaned off of the Omnic Crisis and forgotten about. Baptiste joined Talon and military groups because he kind of had to. He had to fight against Omnics and do all that stuff, which I feel would really mess with him because he couldn't really choose his path in life because of the Omnic War and because Omnics destroyed his family. And even though he's actually trying to become a better person, it did never say that he was, you know, racist against Omnics, and never said he had a prejudice. However, it's kind of implied that he might have a prejudice towards Omnics. It's kind of hard with Baptiste to pinpoint where he is on the racist category against Omnics, and so I just put him in the middle of potential just because he actually does have a pretty likelihood of, you know, being racist towards Omnics. Again, this next one might shock you, and that is Sombra. Just like Baptiste, Sombra was actually orphaned from the Omnic Crisis. And so for the same reason, Sombra is actually in potential for the same reason as Baptiste. She joined Talon. I'm not sure if it was her only option, but it was just to get there for power. But I put her higher than Baptiste because she actually just straight up hacks Omnics randomly. I don't remember where I saw this, but it said something along the line that she could hack Omnics, and she does. And so she obviously doesn't really care for them, which, you know, doesn't mean that she's racist towards Omnics, but it's just enough to put her above Baptiste in racism. And our final person in potential racism is Doomfist. Doomfist is the leader of Talon, so we have to look a lot into what Talon is all about, which Talon in itself is actually not racist. Their goal is to cause conflict in order to strengthen humanity, which, you know, saying humanity rather than humans and Omnics kind of is one-sided. He's fighting for humans, he's not fighting for Omnics, which doesn't really make him racist in itself, especially because on Talon's like leader group, Maximilian is there, Ramatra is hired. He obviously isn't super racist against Omnics. However, since his goal is to just strengthen humanity, it's kind of implied that he doesn't care for Omnics, is the best way to put it. If you think that Doomfist is not racist, I think that's fair. I actually am gonna now move him to the bottom of potentially racist because I feel like he's in the same category as Mora. He's just kind of not racist, but he only cares for humanity, just like how Mora only cares for the evolution of humanity. I also think that Baptiste and Sombra have more reason to be racist towards Omnics than those two. And so that is it for the potentially racist. From here on out, I would like to think that all of these characters have some sort of bias against Omnics or against humans. Now first on the some/prior racism list is Reaper. Now this Reaper one is actually a little hard to explain. Now the first thing I want to mention about Reaper is he seems to really not like Winston. and he calls Winston a monkey, which doesn't sound great. And so that alone, we could put him in potentially racist towards gorillas, which being racist towards an animal is a little weird, but it's a sentient gorilla, so it's a little rough, but it's still racist in a way. And so that alone, you can put him in some/potentially racist. But I also read that Reefer actually doesn't like Omnix, and I couldn't find the source for it, so I didn't put him in racist just because of that. And so in the comments, you guys can tell me if Reefer is actually more or less racist. It seems like on his wiki that he doesn't really have any racism towards Omnix, but we know that he kind of bullies Winston, we know that. So I'm gonna put him in some/prior racism. Like I said, it's a little hard to explain. I would probably need to do more research on this one, but I did quite a bit of research, and for some reason I couldn't find it. Next up on our racism list is Bastion. I am sorry for those of you who wanted Bastion to be a crippling racist, but he is not. Bastion was literally invented to kill humans, and that alone would mean that he is probably the most racist character, because he is racist towards the whole human race. However, if you have seen the last Bastion, you would know that he is a peaceful little robot. He does for a second go into killer robot mode, which means that he would shoot any humans and just start killing them. But the issue is that was, I think, years ago, canonically. And so Bastion obviously has gotten over his human racism, but here's the problem. He's a robot who could be recoded to, you know, kill things. I think since he is a Bastion, who is historically known for killing humans, he could easily be programmed or reactivated into killer robot mode. And so, unfortunately, I would love to put Bastion in not racist due to the fact that he's different. But since there is potential that Torbjorn didn't remove his racism chip, I shouldn't call it that. It feels like Order 66, you know, like clones and Jedis. The clones are racist against Jedis. It's kind of like that. Bastion, it's understandable wherever you put him. Bastion's just an odd one. I feel like there is huge potential for him to be reactivated as a killer robot, and so I put him in some/prior, which is, he's actually one of the reasons why I put /prior, just because there is a chance that his racism might come out in the fact of him just being programmed to kill stuff. And so just for that reason, I'm gonna put Torbjorn next to him. Torbjorn, if you guys did not know, actually was racist against Omnix. That was until he met Bastion. Unlike the people in potentially racist, Torbjorn is canonically racist against Omnix up until the fact he met Bastion. Now, is Torbjorn racist against Omnix now? We're not completely sure, but obviously he has a pet Bastion, which, you know, you can't really be racist and have a pet Omnic. I mean, I guess you could, it's, you know, slavery, but I don't think his Torbjorn's using Bastion as a slave, let's be honest here. He also has a turret, which has an AI, which isn't exactly an Omnic. So Torbjorn is obviously not racist. He has gotten over his racism, or at least we would like to think so. But just for the fact that I think he's been war hardened so hard, he lost his arm to Omnix. I feel like there is a little bit of that untrustworthy in him. And so I'm gonna put him in some racism, even if it's not like a harmful amount of racism. Because unlike Bastion, obviously, Bastion is gonna be coded towards racism. So like, right now I'd like to think that Bastion is not racist at all. But in the rare scenario, Bastion could just start killing things. However, Torbjorn is always having that little bit of racism in him. I hope that made sense. And next up, our final some racism is Zarya. Zarya, just like Torbjorn, is racist against Omnix. However, during the comic or whatever with Sombra, Zarya actually saves an Omnic from being blown up in a warehouse. Zarya and the Omnic then talk, and the Omnic asks, "Why'd you save me?" And Zarya goes, "I don't know, like a week ago I would have probably killed you." And you know, that's kind of subtle, but this just shows that she's no longer racist, or at least she's getting over her racism. And so she still has that untrust of Omnix, just like Torbjorn. And I'd argue that it's worse because, you know, just a week ago she would have killed someone. But regardless, she is actually getting over it. So I think it is fair to put her at the top of some racism, because she's still somewhat racist towards Omnix, or at the very minimum, just getting over it. And now we get on to our final category, the last four heroes who are racist. And I'm gonna start with the one that is least certainly racist, and that is Roadhog. When I shared this tier list with people, Roadhog was always kind of mentioned. Some people were like, "Are you sure Roadhog's actually racist towards Omnix?" And according to the lore, He joined a group of Australians to go and blow up an Omnic factory or something like that. I didn't really understand it, but it was a terrorist attack on an Omnic facility. And since he is part of Australia, which, you know, Australia, Junkertown, all that, they hate Omnics because the Omnics destroyed Australia to a certain extent. The government gave up on them, Omnics controlled it, and like it's a whole mess down there. I think it's pretty obvious. I don't really know the Overwatch story. But from Roadhog's wiki, he does go around just killing people. And like I said, he was involved in a terrorist attack towards Omnics. And his best friend also is, you know, someone who hates Omnics. And so I kind of have to put him in the racist category. He hasn't done anything that's anti-racist towards Omnics, and he's only done something that has been racist towards Omnics. And so I can't say that he only has some racism. I can't say that he's not racist. I just have to put him in racist. If you guys disagree and you think that he's just doing what he has to survive or to take over Australia again, I think that's fair. However, the next three, I think it is not fair. I think the next three are guaranteed racist. And at number 3 is Ramattra, the new Overwatch character who isn't even out yet. Ramattra, from what I understand, is very racist towards humans because he tried to make peace with them, but he couldn't, and he thinks that humans cannot make peace with Omnics. That is kind of a bold assumption to make about a group of people, and so just because of that view alone, he is obviously racist. Now, why is he not more racist than the other two? Let's talk about that. The reason that Ramattra is a racist is because he has gone through the turmoils and seen all the deaths of his brethren. He also believes that Omnics are not refundable, since Omnics cannot reproduce. I mean, I guess they can, you know, AI and all that. But since Omnics don't work exactly like humans, it's kind of rough for them. Omnics have to rely on humans to remake them. And so I would like to think that Ramattra's reasons for hating humans is more justified than the other two, and on top of that, he also